All right, good day everybody. So this week we are going to take our sketches from last week. You did those thumbnail sketches and we're going to transfer, you're going to choose one and we're going to transfer that up and we're going to do one finished larger drawing. So you're not doing 10 of these, you're doing one. So you'll pick your best one, whichever one you think is going to be the most successful for your drawing. So this video, we're going to go over how we accurately transfer things that are smaller to make them larger, to scale them up, and to refine that as we go along. So let me mount my phone into the holder here so that I can film and draw at the same time. So you have to think about a sketch assignment like a rough draft, right? If it's a standalone sketch assignment, yeah, it's going to be what it is. But if it's like something like this, where we're using it to plan ahead for our next project, then we want to treat it like it's a rough draft. So like when you're in English class and you got to write a story or something, usually you're going to do like an outline, and then you're going to do a rough draft, and then you're going to go back and improve on that. So the same idea applies here. So you're not stuck with exactly what you did in your sketchbook. You want to be looking for ways to improve it. And then as you go along, so don't feel like you're stuck with something if it's not quite transferring as easily. So, and you may have to add to it or take away from it depending on what you're drawing. One thing we have to start to do though is like to do an accurate transfer, we have to start to learn how to make associations as far as like where one thing is relevant to another. So I've got these two thumbnails here. This one's a bit bigger. Y'all's should be more like this one, a little smaller. And then so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to transfer that into a larger sheet or onto a larger sheet of paper. Okay, so you'll need a pencil, and so you'll take your sheet of paper, and so if you're drawing, you want it to be landscape. Make sure your paper's turned to landscape. If it's in portrait, then you want to turn your paper to portrait. And then so what we want to do is start saying, okay, and we're going to use the edge to figure out where things need to be lined up. I'm going to start drawing this and laying some of these things in. I'm not going to try to draw this entire drawing, but I am going to kind of go over how we need to start making those associations and how we want to draw lightly so that we can make changes when we need to. So you're going to need, again, a pencil, an eraser, and a sharpener if necessary. So what I want to do is start making associations like in how things relevant to another line up. So like how one thing is relevant to another. So I'm going to go along the edge and I'm going to say, okay, so this curve here is ending about halfway up. So I could come to my paper here and I can do this bit of the curve, but first I probably ought to just lay this in first. So like I said, usually you want to work like whatever's on top, whatever's the closest to the back. With a lot of layers, if things are kind of on top of and underneath, you might just have to kind of work through it as you go. So let's kind of start here. So I've got this coming across. It's about a quarter of the way across. So I'm going to come a quarter of the way across my paper. I'm going to come down. I'm going to say I got a vertical line maybe a third of the way, maybe a little less than a third of the way down the page. Notice I'm holding the pencil back here so I'm not bearing down too hard. So we don't want to draw this very heavily because you may want to go back over it with your colored pencils and do that. So then this angle's coming off here, and this doesn't have to be absolutely exact, but this is going to help to get it pretty close, and it's coming just to above halfway. So I'm going to take that there, all right, and then it's narrow, a narrow shape here, and then it's not quite coming down. Like if you look at this corner, it's not quite coming down all the way to that, so I'm not going to come quite that far. And then I'm going to draw this in here. And I'm just kind of laying things in right now. I can come back later and clean them up if the angles or the lines aren't quite as straight as I want them to be. Just to kind of get that laid in. So you can see how I'm making those associations. Now, the rectangle that you drew in your sketchbook may not be exactly the same ratio of length to width as your piece of paper. So that's where you may have to make some adjustments. That's where some adjustments to the drawing may come in. So that's where we are on that, okay? So then from there, you know, I've got this structure, and I've got another one, and then I've got just some horizontals here. And I'm working rather quickly. You all should be taking your time and trying to do this. Just in the interest of time, I'm trying to do this just so that we can get you all on it. And then from this, I've got another line kind of coming off. And this line is going down here. So when I get to about here, a little ways past halfway, I hit this diagonal here. So I'm going to go ahead and when I get a little bit past halfway, go ahead and start laying that diagonal in, and then that leads me that way. So I can kind of go ahead and lay that whole line in right there, at least part of it. All right? So I'm going to be working through and building this up as I go around. So it's not like you're just drawing each shape and then moving to the next one. You may have to, as you get to things, go ahead and draw part of it in. And that's okay. And like, so say like this shape here, I don't really like that, and I don't think I'm going to include that in my final version. What I might do though is add something else in later once I kind of get everything else laid in. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, well this line's about right here. I'm going to lay that up. And then I'm going to bring this angle on up. Now, so now I'm getting up in here to where like this curve is. So I want to go ahead and maybe lay that in or try to. And again, don't worry about it not being perfect right now. We just kind of want to lay things in place. So I'm just going to lay that curve in, and I'll come back to it if I need to clean it up. And then from there, and then it's a bit narrower, and then on the edge over here, we've got the other end coming in. So I'll draw that in. All right, so again, we're making those associations. So like this is maybe a little bit more than a quarter of the way down or so. So I'm going to bring that there. And then I want to make sure this curve is accurate enough. And just to get things laid in place, you know, I may have to come back and adjust. That's just part of it. So just be prepared for that. And be prepared to change the drawing where needed, okay? So that's basically how you go about making your transfer. And then beyond that, it's just kind of going back and refining the drawing. Now, just keep the drawing light until you get it all laid in. And then in the next video, I'm going to go over how we're going to apply color to this, as far as like how you can use the colored pencils to shade. And you may want to go back and go over your pencil marks with a black, or even a specific color to your colored pencil for your lines. And that may add more contrast and interest to the drawing overall. So you might need to think about, okay, well, just because I have a line doesn't mean it needs to be black. And I'm sure I'll discuss that in the next video. But that's a real quick kind of tutorial on how we need to transfer the drawings. So if any of you all have any questions, you know, email me and I'll be happy to try to answer them. Anyway, so stay tuned. The color video will be posted on this as well.